Nobody wants to be told that they're doing something wrong, but if you're a teacher working with students with visual impairments and you are not consistently teaching these three skills, then your students run the risk of not growing up to be their most independent and successful selves. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what those are and how you can help your students right now. Welcome back to How to Teach Students with Visual Impairments. I'm Cassie Maloney. I'm an orientation and mobility specialist as well as the founder here at the Society of Exceptional Educators. And our entire goal is to give you the skills that you need as a classroom teacher, a related service, or even a TVI, O&M, CADIS, VRT. We're going to call y'all the experts in the room. The skills that you need to make more impact in the lives of your learners who have visual impairments. Maybe your learners are blind, maybe your learners have low vision, whatever the case may be, all of these skills will work for you. Now, I have over 17 years of experience directly teaching in the field, and I've been in the field for 20 years, going through college and whatnot. And I have learned a few things by being in the classrooms in and out, and by having this global view of what's happening in general in our field. And here's what I see so often. We've got struggling teachers who are overwhelmed, who want the best for their learners, and who just don't know how to make that happen. Maybe that's you. And maybe if that is you, you're looking at the successful teachers, the ones who are making a lot of impact, and the ones who seem to be cool, calm, collected, and like able to have a personal life, right? And you're like, how do they get that? How do I get that? What I see are specifically teachers who are impactful. They're not doing all of the things, but they do know exactly what to focus on and exactly how to get their work done so that they can go home on time. And that's exactly what I want for you. And moreover, I want your students who are blind and visually impaired to consistently and constantly be able to access their free and appropriate public education, if I could get that FAPE correct. When we focus on these three areas that I'm going to share with you, your students will not only increase their academics, but also their ability to be a good person out in the world. And of course, because this is YouTube, we're gonna put the best one last because that's what we have to do. Don't ask me why. I wish I could tell you the first one, but I can't. So the best one is last, and you're gonna wanna stick around for it because that's the one that will be the domino effect to tip the whole thing over. And if you're making these mistakes that I'm going to share, your learners really run the risk of not living successful lives and not being the best people that they can ultimately be. We've got the first one. I want to draw your attention to this thing called incidental learning. Incidental learning happens when we experience something and we learn from it in that moment, but nobody actually taught us. So, for example, you walk into a room, you're wearing a ball gown, everybody else is in jeans. You know that moment, right? That moment creates a feeling inside your body because you know that, hey, I'm out of place. Like, did I miss the memo? Or even vice versa, right? You show up somewhere and you're like ragged and everyone is dressed to the nines. You're not going to feel as great because you understand that you are not fitting in. But you only understand that because you have the vision to see it. Let's also take into consideration, let's say you go into a room and you see a big sign that says, do not sit on the big green chair. That tells you a lot. A, there's a big green chair in the room. B, you're not going to sit on it. And C, why do they have a sign that tells you not to sit on a big green chair? Here's the deal. When you see that sign, you've just learned a lot just by seeing that sign. You learn a lot just by looking outside the window, say, oh, it's a sunny day, even though you're inside. You learn a lot just by looking around. That's incidental learning. And our students with visual impairments, lack that ability to have all of the information that you get to have, because your vision allows you to access things outside of your physical space. Now, I could tell you a lot about this chair that I'm sitting on, or my clothes, or my hair, or the temperature in the room, or the sounds in this room, because my senses can access that. But my vision can tell me a lot more. I can tell you what's happening outside my window. I could tell you what's happening over here. I could tell you so much about my external world that I don't physically have access to. And that's what incidental learning allows us to do. So 90% of what we learn is actually learned incidentally. As much as we're all teachers and we all want to think that we have, the best job in the world and we're making great impact, and we are, incidental learning plays a big part. So why am I sharing this? Because the first skill that always needs to be practiced and reinforced, no matter what type of teacher you are, is going to be literacy. Now, that in and of itself is not like alarm bells, woohoo, I just taught you something new. You knew that. But what you may not have taken into consideration is every time your student looks up and they don't see the things on the boards, or they don't see what's happening around them, but their sighted peer does when their sighted peer looks up, that is creating a divide academically with our students and their sighted peers. So if you have a lot of stuff in your classroom, you might want to start to take some of that down and make sure that everything that your student needs in order to access their literacy is available to them within the realm of where they can access it. If you want to do the best thing for your student, it's going to be to get them on a calendar system. And we have some information here about calendar systems. You can look it up in other parts of the internet. What I want you focused on is working with your TVI and maybe even your O&M to figure out how to create a calendar system that your student can access every single time they change activities. Just like you look at your calendar every day, just like you might look at your calendar multiple times a day, how you spend your time is how you spend your life. But moreover, our brains are primed to want to fill in the stories and want to know what's coming up next. And when we can do that for our students, that allows their brains to say, okay, I know what's coming up next. I know what's expected of me now. Now I can dive deep and sink into deeper, rigorous learning. Calendar systems seem very frivolous, but what they allow you to do is create a routine that allows for rigorous learning. And isn't that the whole point of working and being with your student, is so that they can actually dive deeper than just like surface level of doing the activity? You want them to actually understand it and be there in that present moment. And that's what calendar systems allow you to do. We will dive much deeper into this in the VI Foundations program. If you are a teacher working with students with visual impairments, we have an entire section covering that, and we work you through that. So that's not a big deal, and work you through how to actually work with your TVI to get the best calendar system in place so that you can do this without it feeling like, oh my gosh, another thing that I'm overwhelmed with already. When you get that in place, you will notice behaviors will decrease, your students' academics will increase, and nothing will be taken away from you. It's so simple, right? Calendar systems, they're like the gem. The second thing that I notice that impactful teachers do is they create pathways for advocacy for their learners. If you know about the expanded core curriculum, you might also know that self-determination is a really big area of need for our students with visual impairments. If you don't really understand what self-determination is, that's totally cool. Think about self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is built by doing things over and over and over again. And one of those things that our students need to be able to do is advocate for themselves. Because you are a different person than they are. And you may not know what they need. So if you can help them to learn what they need and give them the tools to advocate for themselves, they then have the chance to grow up to be an adult who can advocate for themselves. But if you A, do everything for them, or B, don't set them up for success in advocating, or don't listen to them, or you may not understand how to do that, then your students' independence is going to falter in the long run. And that's just not something that we want. Okay, I know I told you I was going to tell you 3, but I think I'm going to tell you 4 and sneak this other one in here because it goes along with self-advocacy. We're going to make number 3 social skills. And it's not just about stopping rocking. It's not just about turning to face the other person. It's about understanding how to have a conversation with another person even when you can't see them. So yeah, turning to face the teacher is going to be a big one. Also, things like if their student is completely blind and they just go into the classroom and start moving around, but there are sighted people walking behind them coming into the classroom as well. Maybe you have them turn on the lights. Start thinking about the other people and what they need as well, even if that's not what they need. So that way when they're an adult, they have that wherewithal. Because remember, we as people who have vision can see disgruntled faces. But unless your student hears it, they may not know that there was an issue at all. So when I talk about social skills, I'm talking more than just sharing. And I'm talking more than just like being a nice person. I'm talking about the intricacies of how do you have a conversation as a person with a visual impairment, and how do you even maybe advocate and let people know, hey, please don't pop into the conversation without telling me who you are, or can you tell me who this is? Or if somebody leaves without saying goodbye, then they have the ways and the wherewithal to tell that person, can you please let me know when you leave the conversation next time? Because these are all skills that they're going to need to have in the future as an adult. Social skills is a huge one, and it needs to be practiced no matter what level you are at. Now, I know as a teacher, you're probably already doing that, but I just kind of wanted to say it as well. Okay, so I told you 3. Let's go to this 4th one because this is the biggest thing that I see overall. Struggling teachers continue to struggle because they're not taking the time to invest in supporting skills that will save them and their students time in the long run. Because those are the skills that really take up a lot of effort and energy in the beginning, but towards April and May, that's when things get really good and you can hang back a little bit. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about the skill that's going to allow your students to actually live independent lives. And that's simply independence. But it takes time. Just like it takes a long time for a 5-year-old to tie their shoes, but the 12th grader doesn't need that much time. Same thing with all of these other skills. If we want our students to be able to be independent adults, we have to give them the ability to try and fail now. In reading classes, young students take a long time to read words. They're not expected to take a short amount of time to read these words, and they're expected to read out loud and struggle because that's how you get better. But in independence, I see a lot of teachers not creating that time and space for the struggle. Because what ends up happening is you're in a rush. You gotta go to music, you gotta go to the cafeteria, your student has to get to PE. It's the end of the school day, mom's outside waiting, all this stuff. And we forget that if the student can't get to the grocery store to buy milk as an adult, we have failed. It's not about the algebra. It's not about academics all the time. It's about creating successful people, and that is what we are here to do. And if you have a student with a visual impairment in your class, then you've been charged with joining forces with your TVI and your O&M, CADIS, VRT, if that's applicable, any sort of transition counselor, anything like that, everybody on the VI team, to help create a successful, independent, visually impaired adult. And the way to do that is to create space for that independence and support your student in rising up and actually using their skills. So the very first thing that you can start doing is start looking at your own prompting behavior. Are you prompting early? Maybe it's time to hang back. Maybe it's time to give prompts with writing them with your tongue on the roof of your mouth before you do anything else. Maybe it's time for you to allow your student to use their cane, even if it's going to take them 35 minutes. Now is the time. Not just tomorrow, not just in the future, not just, oh, when I have time, when I have another parent, now. Because every time that we take that opportunity away from our students, they never get that back. So I encourage you to read up on O&M skills and independence. Talk with your TVI and O&M. In our VI Foundations program, we will dive further into this with all of our members, and we go into what are the O&M skills you can be supporting and how you can support it and what it looks like and where to stand and all of that jazz, so that way you know how to do that. Because I know that if you're watching this video, especially all the way to however many minutes it's been, you care. You're not just watching this for giggles, right? I'm not dancing or doing anything silly. It's because you want to be an impactful teacher. And that's exactly what I want for you. We have a free download PDF that you can get if you want to dive deeper into actual skills that you want your students, that you need to be doing to help your students. There are 5 things every educator needs to be working on. Some of the ones that I shared about are in there, but other ones are not. Please feel free to grab the link and I will send that right over to you, or join us in the society. It is completely free and we just love to jam out and help all teachers working with students with visual impairments to get better and be impactful and go home on time. Go home on time. That's a big thing too. All right, friends, I hope you can take this information to help you take a step forward, and I will see you next week.